Hi, good afternoon on this beautiful, cozy, rainy day. I'm so happy. Just sitting here with my coffee, my pumpkin biscotti cookies, dipping in my coffee. Woo, what a beautiful day. That is nice. But seriously, hi, I'm Brianna. I really don't like introductions in videos like this. It feels very weird and unnatural, but I am Brianna. This is either just my channel, Brianna, or it's Brianna CTV, or, you know, Brianna and her coffee. So I always have coffee next to me. So I can be like, hey, I'm Brianna, and this is her coffee. Get it? I wanted to just talk about Enneagram today. So if you hate Enneagram, either listen with an open mind or a judgmental mind, or just sayonara, suckers, you know? Kind of are suckers, because the Enneagram could be a great tool to use. Hold on, I need a resource. Okay, I only want to come on here and talk about Enneagram, like, pretty much my 100% reason for coming on here and talking about it is because I have made all of my friends and my husband really annoyed with talking to them too much about it. So now I'm turning to you, which is pretty much the entire basis behind even starting a vlog thing. I have a blog already called Briannesty, briannesty.com, go check it out. I pretty much only started that because I have so many thoughts and stuff. I just wanted to have like an avenue for those things to be like to put out into the world. It wasn't enough for me to just journal and get my thoughts out. I wanted someone to hear my thoughts, kind of. And this is kind of like the sequel to that, I guess, is as much as I love to write, I also love to talk. And so this way I can talk all I want and people can listen or they cannot, and that's fine. Isn't that cool? And for all I know, I'm just talking to a screen or whatever, a camera. I'm just talking to a camera and all good. Anyways, Enneagram. This is one of the things that's on my mind all the time, and therefore I'm going to blab about it to you. For this video, I'm just gonna talk about like what the Enneagram even is. So if you already know what it is, you can skip this video if you'd like. If you wanna know more about it, you can listen. Because in my next video, I wanna talk about my journey to figuring out my number. And then I'm gonna probably do a couple of cool things after that with the Enneagram as well. So first of all, the Enneagram is not like the gospel. It's not like the end all be all, everyone must know and use it. I just think it's a pretty cool tool. And I'm all about the tools, you know? I wanted some more tools in my toolbox to live a happy, healthy life. And I feel like the Enneagram is a really cool one that I hadn't seen done like this before. So basically the Enneagram is like a super ancient personality diagram web process thing. It's become really popular in the last couple of years and I'm not super sure why, but I'm okay with it. But not a lot of people know that it's really ancient. Like it's from biblical times and before. Like it's very old. And that in itself makes me, I don't know why, but it kind of just adds to the credibility of it, in my opinion. So basically, there are 9 different types, and they're called numbers. So it's like numbers 1 through 9. Number 1 is, so they each have titles. And it doesn't mean like, if you are this number, you're just what the title is. It's actually extremely complex and depthful, and it's like never ending. That's why I've had such a fun time on this journey of discovering more about it, because there's always something more to discover about it. I started learning about it like a year and a half ago. For a second there, I didn't know if I was filming. That would be a bummer. Anyways, about a year and a half ago, I started learning about it, and I read multiple books, watched like endless videos, researched all about it and everything, listened to podcasts constantly. Anytime I'm in the car, I'm listening to an Enneagram podcast probably. And I think it's just super cool. So the thing is, it's like never ending. It's super complex. So when I'm barely scratching the surface in this video. So all the things I say, don't take it to be like, oh, now I know, like that's all that it is. And everything I say is it, you know, there's like so much to it. So anyways, I'm just going to scratch the surface because I don't want to go far into it. It's like really crazy. At that point, I'm just going to write a book, you know? So they each have a little title that they've been given. And type 1 is the perfectionist. Type 2 is the helper. Type 3 is the performer. Type 4 is the romantic. Type 5 is the investigator. Type 6 is the loyalist. Type 7 is the enthusiast. Type 8 is the challenger. And type 9 is a peacemaker. So each type has strengths, like challenges, just like every human has a strength and a challenge, right? At least one of each. Every number has strengths and challenges. Every number has their like deadly sin, the thing that they're most prone to, that would be seen as wrong. And for example, like the 5 is avarice, which is a fancy word for being greedy, but they're specific, 5s are specifically greedy with time and space and more personal things like that. So they actually don't care that much about material things. They're more greedy with their time and their space. So that would be their deadly sin. And then every number has like a childhood wound. It goes further and further and further. And the way that it works, it has this little web where it shows all of the numbers and they each connect in a different way. So you can see on this little web, right, it has the 1 through 9 and the arrows all pointing to each other and stuff. Because the way that it works is, one thing that a lot of people say is like, well, how can I just choose one number? I feel you. I had a 1.5 year process of figuring out my number because I kept finding new reasons why I could be a different number. So I get it. We can relate to so many things about all the numbers, but that's kind of the point and it's kind of the beauty of it. I knew for sure there were like 2 or 3 numbers I'm like, absolutely not these ones. Or maybe there are 4 numbers, whatever. Like a handful of numbers where I'm like, nope, not me. But then the other 5, I'm like, I don't know. Like I could be, it's so weird because I one day would be like, oh, I'm for sure this one, and then change. The reason behind that is because every number has a wing, and it's the numbers on either side of that number. So if you're a 3, for example, your wings are 2 or 4, and you wing heavily more to one or the other. If you're a 3, you have pieces of both. A bird needs 2 wings to fly, right? So you have a piece of both wings, but you weigh much more heavily on one than the other. So you would say, oh, I'm a 3-wing 2, for example. That's like the language you would use. But then beyond the wings is that you would also go to other numbers in what's called growth or stress. What that means is if you're going to another number in growth, it's on this, whatever number is pointing, the arrow is pointing to your number from a different number, that's where you go to in growth. And that's like could be a season of time, or it could be a particular circumstance, or like a party, like it could be one night, a situation, a season, whatever, where you feel really secure and you feel safe and you feel confident in yourself, that you move to the growth number. So you would show and reflect signs of that growth number. And on the flip side of that, if you're in a stressful season, or a season where you feel unsafe or insecure, or a situation where you feel those things, you might reflect your stress number. So it's whatever number your number has an arrow going and pointing to. And after diving more into that, I'm like, okay, so everyone is basically part 5 numbers. You weigh much more heavily on one number, and that's your number, but you reflect 5 numbers as a whole, as a human being, because humans are complex creatures, right? We're not just gonna be this one thing. Like, we're dynamic and we change. We ebb and flow with life and with season, what things are thrown at us and who we're with and all that stuff. When people freak out about like, well, how can I be just number? Don't be just one number. Don't put me in a box. I get it. Like, that's totally valid. Another thing to think of is, I I love the way, actually this book, The Road Back to You, describes it this way. Think of every number representing a color, right? So say 4 represents blue, but every person who's a 4 is a different shade of blue. So you and your best friend could both be 4s, but you guys look and act totally different. That's because the Enneagram isn't about what you do, it's about why you do what you do. And so you might both do different things, although your motive behind what you're doing is the same, and therefore you're both 4s, but you look really different. So 2 4s can be like totally different people. And which is so cool. And I think that's a really good visual. So another thing about the Enneagram is that it's not supposed to be used as like a means of justification for our faults. So each number is part of what's called a triad. I know it's a lot of information. I'm telling you, Enneagram is so complex, it's crazy. That's why I've been researching for so long. And I still don't know as much about it as I want to. Anyways, each number is part of a triad. So 3 times 3 is 9, right? So there are 3 triads within the 9 types. And 8, 9, and 1 are in the anger triad or the gut triad. 2, 3, and 4 are the heart triad or the feelings triad. And 5, 6, and 7 are the head triad or the thinking triad. So for example, say that the 8 has a tendency to react to a situation out of anger. Like that's the first emotion that they go to and that they feel. And but the thing with Enneagram, it doesn't just give you the justification to say, oh, well, I'm an 8 and so I have a bad temper. It actually is the opposite. It's now giving you a tool and a resource to use to then move beyond that and say, okay, I know I'm gonna probably respond to this in anger, but why? And how can I be more patient and maybe hold that anger inside, feel it for a second, and then respond differently. So I think the Enneagram is really cool for a few reasons. For one, I want to know, how am I affecting those around me, especially the people I love, right? The people who are close to me that I'm in close relationship with. How are they receiving me? Am I being so blunt that I'm crushing them? Or am I being just blunt enough to where I'm empowering and encouraging them, right? Those are pretty important distinctions that I want to know about myself. How am I coming off to the world? But also, how are my friends responding to me based off of what numbers they are? If they're a certain number, then I can know and be aware of, oh, they're not going to receive me being super blunt very well. I need to find a way to express and communicate what I'm trying to say in a very less blunt and direct way that won't be crushing to them, right? Or won't be just like kind of a shock factor of it feels like I just jabbed them when that's not my intention. So yeah, I mean, people ask me, people that I've been bugging about this have been asking like, why do you care so much? Whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. First of all, I think I care so much just because it's fun. Like I find this really fascinating, discovering more and more about the human brain and personality type. Like that personality of a person is so intangible to me that I could delve into it constantly. Like it's just so fun to find out more about it and how we all work as humans. And I think it's important to me just because it's important. It matters to me how we all interact with each other. And I want to make sure I'm interacting as positively as I can. And the Enneagram's giving me a tool to have more of a hold on and language for, and like a resource to be able to grow in areas where it is challenging for me to communicate in a gentle way. Like that sort of thing it just is a helpful tool to figure that out. Anyways, I'm trying to think if I missed anything that I wanted to add. So like I said, I'm just like barely scratching the surface on it. I kind of just wanted to give a little splurge? No. Whatever. I just kind of wanted to give a little thing. Like, what is that word? That's okay. I just want to talk a little bit about it and give a little bit of information about it so that when I talk about it in the future, if you don't know what it is, then you can watch this and it's not like, what the heck is she saying? Although I know there's so much more to say, but at this point in time, there's just not enough time, nor do I have the energy to like go that far into it. That's it. Oh, one actually really important thing that I'll end with is to find your number. Like if this sounds interesting to you and you don't already know your number, or maybe you think you know your number already, but the way you know your number is from one of these ways I'll tell you not to figure it out by. Maybe you want to do some more research. So the thing about the Enneagram is that no one else can type you. No one can come to you and say, oh, well, you're a type 4 because ABC. Because like I said earlier, it's not what you do, it's why you do it. So unless it's someone like your spouse, they probably don't know why you do all the things you do, like what the motivation behind your decisions are. And therefore, you're the only one who can type yourself. So even taking the tests online, I think taking those free tests that you can find online is a great starting point, but that shouldn't just be your answer. And you see the number on the screen, you're like, great, and you just exit the web browser and walk away and say, I'm that, and not even know more about it than the little preview that they give you, if you care enough. I mean, like, you don't care that much, then you're not gonna do anything with it. It doesn't really matter. But if you care enough to really know your type and whatnot, then I would use the test as a starting point, and it should give you like your top 3 numbers, something like that. Then you can take that and look deeply into each of those numbers, figure out the stress and security, the wings, and all of that kind of stuff. Know more about it, the deadly sin, the childhood wound, all of those things matter and make up each number, and therefore determine which ones you are. So anyways, nobody can tell you what type you are. I'm super guilty of that. I've done it. I think about it all the time. Like I have to bite my tongue and not say to people, oh, you're this type. I totally think about it, but I try and not tell people, you're this type, you're this type. Like I said, I've totally done that. So I apologize for those of you that have done that too. But yeah, no one can type you. So don't let anyone tell you that you are something. Like I'll talk about my number in the next video. And if anyone's like, she's totally not that number. Well, they have no idea what number I am. Unless they want to really dissect my brain and my motives behind everything I do, they have no idea what number I am. Only I can know. There was one other thing. What was I going to say? Another thing each number has that only adds to the complexity of the Enneagram are subtypes. Every number there are 3 subtypes to each number. It's self-preservation, and social, and sexual, or one-to-one. I kind of like to call it one-to-one just because it has nothing to do with sex. It's just talking about like intimacy, like being more one-on-one with someone. So those are the 3 subtypes for every number. So you could be an 8-wing 9 subtype, like a self-pres subtype. And that looks way different than an 8-wing 9 or an 8-wing 7 social subtype. Even though you're both 8s, adding those slight 2 differences is like honestly a world of a difference, which is pretty, again, just fascinating. Isn't it cool? Like I just think this is cool. When you're trying to discover your number, or if you already know your number, but maybe you don't know subtypes, like go look up subtypes and figure out what that looks like for your number and try and assess specifically which subtype you are, because that just changes it and it adds to it. Don't forget to look out for my next video where I'm going to just share about my journey in figuring out my number. It was a long one and that's fine. Anyways, okay, well, I think that is all I have for right now on the Enneagram. Thanks for watching. Sign-offs are another thing I don't like. Can I just say bye? Cheers. Go have yourself some coffee.